Brodes Media.
Yeah, we got ourselves some Eagles football. Eagles football, it is here. The schedule, it moves the needle. Adrenaline's rolling. We love football. Before we talk about it all, if you're new to the channel, what's up? Thank you all so much for being here. Hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. If you are looking for more Brodes Media content, well, of course, you could join the membership here on YouTube for $4.99 a month. You will get Coffee with Brodes live streams every Monday and Thursday morning right here on YouTube, where we kick back, we relax, we chill, we have our cup of coffee in the morning, 11 a.m., Monday and Thursday. Can't wait. And then also, you get access to our Discord channel. The information's down below in the description. Thank you guys all so much for the crazy love and support, and enjoy the show. Go Birds, baby! Go Birds! All right, we got the 2024 schedule release. Nothing that dropped last night when the schedule was announced was going to change my win total. I'm not going to go fully down the list and play W and L with you, even though I know that that's part of being a football fan. But honestly, I don't know where the wins are going to be necessarily, but I project them to be a 12 to 13 win type of squad, as long as Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio are good in their respected positions, because I don't believe in Nick Sirianni. And I asked the question to all the listeners out there. I can't thank you enough if you took the time to call in. We'll get to your anytime hotline calls. But I asked the people, yo, how do you feel about Nick Sirianni entering 2024? So we'll get that reaction. I forgot how much I despised him until about over the last week or so when I did a show here on Brodes Media. I did a show on WIP, and halfway through, I'm going, damn, dude, I hate this guy. I do. I can't stand him. I think he's a nobody in this league. So it really comes down to, can the coordinators coordinate? And if they can, then Nick Sirianni's going to look like a genius and a fantastic CEO style of coach. But it just bothers me that we're hearing Kenny Gainwell speak on a podcast about how there was no connection within the group, yet one of the biggest core values of Nick Sirianni, which, by the way, is very high school-like to begin with. Here's professional athletes, 50 plus of them, sitting in this room, and he's going to put on a PowerPoint presentation that our core values is we are going to connect with one another and we are going to compete. Dude, come on. That's what you got for us? Where's the strategy? Where's the balls to step in when Brian Johnson is overwhelmed, when nobody had the answers? Where's the head coach to say, all right, fellas, it's my time to step in, and as CEO, I need to recognize when things are starting to spiral. I will be the one because I have the answers, because I'm a damn good coach. I never saw that. I'm very down on Nick Sirianni. I apologize. But if he's going to preach connection, and that's his bread and butter, that's it. That's what he truly represents. And yet they didn't have it. Well, if that's your A-plus thing, that's your go-to. Everybody in life has that thing about them. Well, if that thing isn't working, then what the hell do you do? What do you bring to the table, Nick? Because it's not strategy. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this. I'm sorry. It'll probably happen again. I apologize. Let's get into this schedule. That's more important here. It is. Week 1. They're going to play Green Bay in Brazil. We knew about this one for a little bit of time, and I like it. I like the fact that you have to handle some adversity, because they didn't do it at all last season. Last season, every time adversity hit them, they folded. They shrunk after that 10-1 start, right? But once things started to really unravel, that thing fell apart quicker than anything I've ever seen in my life. So you got to be aware that early on, you're playing on a Friday, you're going to a different country, you're losing a home game. I doubt the players actually think about that when they're out there playing in that crazy atmosphere. I'm sure the adrenaline is going to be pumping, but for our sake, there was a lot of controversy around losing a home game. You're not playing at the link, and you're playing a damn good NFC opponent who's coming off of a really hot season. Their quarterback was playing insane. There's a lot of buzz surrounding them. You look at their skill position players, how much they're getting paid versus the Eagles skill position players, how much they're getting paid. So there's a lot of interesting storylines there. And the fact that this could have been played in South Philadelphia, it's not. You got to do all the traveling. I love it. Game one, emotions are high. Everyone knows that maybe the first month, especially how they handle preseason, is a little wonky. It's almost a preseason 2.0 because you didn't take as many tackles as you used to in camp. You didn't play any preseason games. So it's just something that I feel would be good for this group. And if they can overcome that adversity and return to the link to face Kirk Cousins in week 2 on Monday Night Football with a 1-0 record, that would just be beautiful and really set the tone nicely. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I love the Friday 8:15 game. I'm a big Sunday 1 o'clock, and I love the fact that we do have some incorporated here. From about week 3 to week 7, we're sitting in a spot where there's 1 o'clock Sunday pretty actively, and that's when God created football, right? God created football and said Sunday 1 o'clock. So it's the best, even though I'm aware that when your team wants to be watched more, when your team is great, you have to have a payoff, and the payoff is Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, primetime games, 4:25. Yeah, shove it. Give me 1 o'clock all day long. So you open up with Brazil. I'm excited to see how they sort of handle that one. Atlanta, 8:15 Monday night. Kirk Cousins is a fraud. The dude's a fraud. We're going to do what we always do to Kirk Cousins and what we always do to anybody on a nice Monday night game early at home. We're going to annihilate him. Now, what am I basing that off of? I don't know. I just feel good. First game at home. Place is going to be on 1,000, 60+ thousand people. We all waited Sunday and watched Red Zone and saw other teams beat up on one another. So the excitement level for an 8:15 game on Monday when you got people tailgating at 5 a.m. at these parking lots, getting ready and active, so they're shit fucked prior to kickoff. It's going to be insanity. And I believe Jason Kelsey is going to be a part of the ESPN broadcast. I saw Joe Buck talking to Kevin Nagandi about it, saying, yo, Jason Kelsey's going to be a part of our team heading in. But is this man going to be a part of our team heading out? It's a fair question. By the way, I do have to throw this in there as well. It's a little off to the side, but it does have to do with this Eagles schedule release. Not the biggest fan in the world of the video that was thrown out on Twitter. I saw some really good ones, the Chargers, the Sims, and they replicated that. It was okay. That was my reaction. It was okay. The way it's described is people in the media world, this is their Super Bowl. The way they attack the video and the schedule release, that is equivalent to their Super Bowl. That's what I thought when watching it. Halfway through, I went, there's got to be something that pops here, right? There's got to be something that you take away. All right, look, that saved it. That joke, that saying, that phrase, something saved it. Someone pops up. Jason Kelsey's the one to answer. What does this remind you of? And it's the Dallas Cowboys. And Jason Kelsey's the one sitting in the chair and giving his response. And then that would be the pop. That would be the wow factor. It didn't really do it for me, but who am I to judge? All right, so you're going to New Orleans for week 3. You're going to Tampa Bay in week 4. Early-ass bye week, huh? Early bye week. I think for the traveling that's done early on, because they are absolutely away from home for a while there with a game at Tampa, a game at New Orleans, a game in Brazil. There's a lot of travel within the first couple of weeks. So for you to be able to settle in, I guess, for a week 5 bye, if you're looking for any positive spin, but you're going to be beaten down by week 13, 14, 15. Look, injuries happen. Sometimes that bye week could play a massive role and give you an opportunity to let some of your stars breathe and let them get just an opportunity to relax and recalibrate their minds and let their bodies go to work and replenish their self mentally and physically. So it'll be fascinating to see what week 12, 13. Remember, we're coming off of a year where Josh Sweat said he was too tired, where guys, I don't know if he specifically laid that out publicly or not, so I apologize. I'll take that one back. But we saw this defensive line discuss the amount of snaps and just talk about how much that maybe they hit a wall and they weren't able to have the same level of production. And by the way, you lost Fletcher Cox. And by the way, you lost Hassan Reddick, if you forgot about that as well. So those are some big, important guys that are eating a lot of snaps. I don't want to hear it week 15 that they don't have anything left in the tank. What you have to do is handle that adversity. Do they know how to handle that adversity? And this is something I wanted to touch on during that Nick Sirianni rant. So since I got off of that for a few minutes, I figured now is a great opportunity to just reel it back in for a second. The CEO thing, right? I'm not bothered that we have a CEO head coach. That doesn't upset me. I understand that in today's era of football, there are coaches out there that take that approach, that give free rein to whether it's the OC, the DC, go do your thing, man, and I will be sort of the one to overlook it all. The difference is the respect and the way the other guys carry themselves is different than Nick. And you might think that it doesn't matter or shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter is a different conversation. Should it matter if Nick is screaming at fans in Kansas City underneath the tunnel after a win? Should it matter if he's standing on the sidelines on the bench screaming at fans in Indianapolis after the Eagles win? Should that matter? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I personally think it's you can't carry yourself that way as a leader of men. It's silly. It's goofy. It's fraudulent. It's so out of touch, in my opinion. Now, that's who he is. So it's not fraudulent from a sense of he's being him, but I think it's fraudulent in regards to how you need to carry yourself because you need to stay even. When the highs are high, you got to be able to maintain yourself. When the lows are low, you got to be able to maintain yourself. And if you're this high variety guy, it's hard to keep charge and keep these men in check. You're the one they're supposed to look up to throughout that time. Remember, it's not too long ago that Jason Kelsey was discussing how he had to tell Nick Sirianni to tamper it down a little bit. You have the players telling the coach, yo, dude, cool the jets, bring it down a notch. That's the leader. So if you're giving me examples of other coaches in this league, if you're giving me examples of special teams guys, John Harbaugh, for example, who takes a big leap from special teams guy to where he is now, do you see the difference in the two? So it's not CEO that bothers me. It's Nick Sirianni as CEO that bothers me. And really, the trajectory of this team being great really all comes down to who our offensive coordinators are. And it just upsets me because that removes the head coach position in totality. So if he stays out of the way and doesn't really put his fingerprints on things and he just stays there, he could maybe in a position to not hurt the team. But the way I view it is, I don't want to be satisfied with a very important position in football. We say it all the time. The most two important positions in ball is your head coach and your quarterback, right? So I don't want to have someone that I have to say, just don't get in the way. What you're doing is you're losing an opportunity to be better. Because what you can have is a three-headed monster from a coaching aspect. You can have a great OC, a great DC, and a great head coach, all with great ideas, great philosophies, great scheme, great leadership. Right now we have two, and you're removing a position. And you might be able to get by with him not getting in the way, but I don't want to live in a world where I'm asking one of my most important positions to not get in the way. Imagine if our quarterback's job was just don't screw up. Right? That's what people say all the time, is not having a good enough quarterback to win. That is a Kirk Cousins. That is a middle of the road. That's a you just need to not screw up. Don't throw an interception. In the quarterback world, that's a we need to trade that dude instantly, cut him, get rid of him, and see if we can draft a stud who can change our franchise. Yet, with Nick Sirianni, this guy seems to get a pass with some of the fan base, which just blows my mind in totality. So anyway, now that I got that off my chest again, let's get back to some of the schedule stuff. Week 6, you're playing in Cleveland, 1 o'clock. Week 7, you're playing at New York. That'll be fun. Saquon Barkley returning to Meadowlands, and I'm sure he's going to get roasted big time. When he was here for the Sixers-Knicks game, he was even tweeting on social media that he was getting ridiculed and pretty heavily abused by a lot of the Knicks fans that came into South Philly and took over the Wells Fargo Center, and he's telling them, yo, motherfuckers, they didn't even give me an opportunity to come back to you. Don't get mad at me. I had to do what's best for my career. I had to do what's best for me financially. I got to do what's best for me on the field. But I wanted to stay in New York. And look, if you're a New York Giants fan, use your brain cells. I don't know if they have brain cells. I don't know if they're very educated. I don't know if they know the game of football or not. But if the Giants are the one that screwed up the contract situation with Barkley, don't get mad at Saquon Barkley for his decision-making. I get pissed off that your dumbass franchise has no clue what they're doing right now in regards to him. And you might say he's not worth this, he's not worth that. See, the difference is we have a general manager who manipulates the salary cap so much that we're a step ahead. Signing Saquon Barkley did not stop us from Jalen Hurts and his contract extension, which, I love this, he's getting paid a lot of money. Do your research. Go look at the cap hit. No, he's not, because Howie Roseman manipulates cap. So he finds a way to sign Jalen Hurts to a big extension, which doesn't keep you from signing a Saquon Barkley when he hits the market. It doesn't stop you from signing a CJ Gardner-Johnson. It doesn't stop you from giving Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown contract extensions. It doesn't stop you from paying Landon Dickerson. It doesn't stop you from getting Jordan Mailata. You see what I'm saying here? That was this offseason. All of that I just mentioned, this offseason. We're just walking circles around you right now. All right, here's the toughest gauntlet, if you will. Last year's gauntlet was very toxic, and it was pretty brutal for sure. A lot of craziness. This one isn't as strong, but if we're just going to look at the toughest time of the year, in my opinion, it's from week 8 to week 13. You're playing in Cincinnati. You're playing at home against Jacksonville, which you should be able to beat Doug Peterson, in my opinion. But, you know, it's that's not an extremely hard game, but it will be I don't know what the word is necessarily. I don't put them on Cincinnati, Baltimore, Rams, that level. But they're no walkovers either, so it's somewhere in between. But it's a reasonable opponent, I guess. So you're at home against Jacksonville. You're at Dallas week 10. You're at home versus Washington week 11, and say what you want about the Washington Commanders. They might not be good. They might be good, this and that. They always give us trouble. I don't care if it's Alex Smith. I don't care if it's some guy I never heard of. I don't care if it's Heineke. It doesn't matter. We've seen that team pretty much run a 4-quarter effort of intensity against the Eagles and always make us sweat it out. So I don't know how it's necessarily going to end in regards to results, but I can tell you how it's going to play out in regards to how we feel during the 4 quarters, and the answer is probably uncomfortable because they know that they force us to earn wins against Washington for whatever reason. Even though it's a different staff now, it's not Ron Rivera, it's not that crew, but they have a facelift from the ownership level. I think it's just a tough one because it's a division opponent, and just the track record shows that they can make it a little toxic. So after that, you're playing in L.A., and after that, you're playing in Baltimore. So a combination of Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, L.A., and Baltimore is a scrappy run from weeks 8 to 13. Can they do a damn good job? Of course, yes, and I expect them to do a damn good job, and I demand them to do a damn good job. It doesn't relate to any of the gauntlets that I've seen that scared me insanely in years past, specifically mentioning what happened last season. But it definitely is notable that it's a little rough throughout that stage, and you don't have a bye week to break anything up. It would be nice if week 12 you can get a bye week so it can split up maybe 4 games, have a bye, and then the 2 games at the end, which would be in LA and in Baltimore, something along those lines. It would be nice to get a breather, to relax, to get some time to study the tape, Sean McVay, to reassess themselves. That's what Nick Sirianni likes to do during his bye week. They'll self-assess. They'll go over some things. So it would have been nice if you could find that fit right there. Week 5 is insanely aggressive for a bye. Here's the beauty part of the schedule, though, in my eyes, and that's the fact that you end the year off with your final 5 games, 4 of them being at home, and one that you have to, and I mean have to love, is that Dallas game being in the link. Most of the times, it's a split. Most of the time, we see us beat Dallas once, lose to Dallas once. Well, if the division is on the line, if the NFC East is super competitive, if we are in a spot where we have a very similar record and it's going to come down to this one game before we figure out what exactly the New York Giants game is going to mean week 18, well, I love the fact that you get to play Carolina at home, the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, Dallas at home, a lot of home games towards the end. So if you are fighting for your life, hopefully it's not a collapse situation, but if you're actually doing your job and doing what we expect you to do, having those home games in a very competitive NFC East and, just a very down-to-the-wire type feel, well, that is very important. So I'm looking forward to that. That's where the payoff is. For the struggles early on, flying to Brazil, and then having one home game against the Falcons, and then a couple games on the road, Tampa Bay, New Orleans. And I don't know why New Orleans always rubs me the wrong way. Maybe it's the Alshon Jeffrey, Nick Foles debacle. It's that playoff game. It was that run during Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara where they wouldn't shut their face. They wouldn't shut their damn mouths, and they were nonstop crying. They were bitching. That whole time just rubbed me such the wrong way that even if it's not Sean Payton and Drew Brees anymore, there's something that just sits in my stomach when I see that stupid ass logo. It pisses me off, and it sometimes actually gives me a bad feeling playing in New Orleans. So when you're traveling like that so early on, there is a payoff eventually, and you get that payoff towards the back end, and I think that can really come back to help you out a ton. But all right, that's enough from me. Now let's run the phones and hear your opinion on Nick Sirianni and where this team is, in your eyes, under Nick Sirianni for 2024. Let's do it.
What's up, Brodes? Missed here. So, hey, here's where I'm at with Nick Sirianni. I think that the last couple seasons, there's been enough evidence to show that, or at least make a good argument for why he's probably not the world's greatest strategy guy, and he's probably not a great play caller. However, what I think he has shown is his ability to rally the troops, get people behind him. There's been little issues with singular people here and there in that locker room, but overall they've mostly stayed together and stayed focused, and I think that that's important. And I think that he's also shown a willingness to let the people around him, the people that he hires, the professionals, to handle their parts of the equation. And I think that's important. So I think that provided everything else is in place and provided that the team, is able to be successful with the talent and the staff that they have, that he can be an excellent keystone to the overall picture. That's basically the best that I can hope for him. If it doesn't work this year, he's got to go. That's just how it is.
Well, then you don't have as much faith in it. I thought maybe you were talking yourself into it more, because if you feel, and Mist, I love you to death, you know that, and I agree on some things you said, and we'll pick this thing apart, but if you feel that he's that good, if it goes bad this year and you're ready to fire him, is he as good as you think he is? Because if he's good and he has a bad season next year and you feel deep down he's good, then would you really let him go because of a bad season? If you feel someone is that good and they just have a down year or a couple years in a row. Andy Reid, for example, could have a couple down years in a row, but I'm not moving off of him because his excellence speaks for itself, that deep down my gut screams Andy Reid is great, and a couple of down years won't change the fact. But I don't feel that strongly about Nick Sirianni, of course, and it doesn't seem like you do either. Just to put it in comparison with another head coach, John Harbaugh had to deal with something similar, it was, I can look through some of the Ravens seasons in general and potentially squeeze that one out as well. But with New Orleans and Sean Payton, 7-9, what are we going to do? Is it time to move up? No. Sean Payton is a coach that we want to stay with even through some down years. That's the level of coaches in the past. I don't feel that Nick Sirianni sits in the same exact mold as those guys. But here's what I do agree with you on. I do like the fact that he is a head coach that is willing to hear from other coaches, to hear from other sharp football minds. And if you are hired, you have a job to do, and I'm going to allow you to do that job. That is very important, especially in an industry that is very predicated off of being stubborn as hell, but this is where he needs to adapt, and I don't know if he has the answers. If you are hiring someone to do a job, and that person is failing heavily, at some point you have to step in and say, this isn't good enough. I am now going to take over as head coach so the ship doesn't sink, right? And he's not doing that. And when he doesn't do that, I feel the players understand that he isn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? So at some point you lose that. Now, I disagree completely that he's been able to show that the locker room can stay together. No. Once it fell apart and it crashed insanely. And whether it's fair or not, I'll tie together this Kendrick Lamar-Drake beef for a second. Right now, I can't listen to Drake. I just can't. The dude got bodied, all right? The dude is listening to a bop that's screaming, certified lover boy, certified pedophile, bop, 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 bop. That's what this dude is getting called. I can't look at him the same. Once something happens, it changes your mindset on someone. Once you learn someone did something that you either agree or disagree with, you either love that person more or you feel disconnected from that person more. Once Nick Sirianni went through last year's debacle, the handling of Sean Desai, the Matt Patricia nonsense, the way that the ownership was questioning if he should be fired, and it was coming down to the wire, should they not? The fact that they were even questioning it now puts it in the players' brains that, dude, this guy was almost let go. That impacts the thought process of the coach. Once something happens, it's hard to gain that respect again. It's such an uphill battle, and how brutal it was makes me wonder, can the team connect with him the same way, or is he Drake in this beef that I can't even look at you the same way anymore because now I know? You know what I'm saying? So, all right, we'll take the next call.
Hey, Brodes. I'm calling in about Nick Sirianni entering the season in 2024. Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't feel any different than I did last year. He is the biggest cheerleader that I know. All he does is just get crazy on the refs. He runs up and down the sidelines. He shows passion, and I respect that he has passion, but that doesn't make you a good football coach. Look at Bill Belichick. Obviously, those two are uncomparable, but he doesn't show emotion. He's not overly passionate like crazy, on the sidelines or anything like that. Sirianni runs up and down the sidelines like a complete clown. I'm just so sick of this guy. And it looks like the hires that they've made in the offseason just show that he could be on his way out the door this year.
Maybe Kellen Moore slots in there, and he was promised if Sirianni goes, you could be our next head coach. He's still young, and he's got plenty of experience as well. He might be that perfect blend, and we'll see what ends up happening. But see, where I feel I'm okay with the passion is if you're good at your job from a scheme level. I don't care if you're running up and down the floor like he's playing hoops. I don't care if he's running up and down the sidelines, if he has Sean McVay's offense, if he has Kyle Shanahan's offense, if he has a creative offense, if he has Kellen Moore's offense. If that's what he is and he has the answers football-wise, then I don't care what you do. I might not like it. I might not prefer it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, can you coach football? I need you to have competence schematically. I can't have you just be this rah-rah guy. That's not going to cut it at this stage. And what irritates me is when I look at this team, and this could somewhat be a segue for a later show, and I heard the afternoon show on WIP talk about this a little bit, and I find it interesting on, are they really ready to win a championship right now with their roster? And offensively, you could say yes. Defensively, you could say there's some youth to it. And I don't want to necessarily get into all the ins and outs right now because I want to save the topic. But I think they're a really good team. And I like their coordinators a lot. And all of that will be in a positive direction when discussing the squad. But this head coach stuff, and the issue is, if the coordinators are good, then Nick Sirianni gets a free pass. Gets a free pass for just standing there. And that makes me feel a little weird because I don't know what to judge him off of. Think of this. He's now put in a position where essentially he can't even be judged. Maybe that was on purpose. Maybe that's what Nick Sirianni, or not Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie wanted, to remove him from criticism because they know that he doesn't have the answers. I don't know. But he can't even be judged. The only thing I'm going to judge him on at this point is if the team is undisciplined penalty-wise, and if he can't use his timeouts and can't get guys on the field properly. That's all? That's it? That's what the head coach gets blamed on now? It's crazy. We'll take one more and then wrap it up.
Yeah, Brodes. A couple of years ago, my girlfriend and I went up to Philly and watched the Eagles.
Okay.
Then we saw them come down here to Tampa. And her first reaction to Nick Sirianni was, he's over his head. And I think we kind of both agree with that now. So anyway, he's just over his head. Talk to you later.
All right, so I'm not the only one who feels this passionately about it. The girlfriend does as well. You got a very sharp football mind. Maybe she could be on the sidelines because she probably knows more than Nick Sirianni does. I'll tell you that for free. You might be able to go see them at Tampa again, week 4 at Tampa Bay. 1 o'clock game, the way God intended football to be. All right, everybody, those are my thoughts. Thank you all so much for kicking it with me. Love you guys to death, and I'll see you all on the next one.